Hello and welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Breaking developments this hour, the Middle East is on high alert as tensions between Iran and Israel rapidly escalate following US strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Israel is now under fire, with its military confirming multiple missile barrages launched from Iran. Explosions have been heard across Tel Aviv, Jerusalem and central Israel, with dozens of impacts reported. Israel's airspace has been closed and national airlines, including El Al, have cancelled all flights through to June the 27th. Rescue flights have also been suspended. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister has condemned the US strikes, calling them a grave violation of international law, while Iran's UN mission has formally requested an emergency Security Council meeting. In Vienna, the IAEA has confirmed that no radiation leaks have been detected at the struck nuclear sites. The situation remains fluid and the region braces for what may come next. We're now joined by Major General SVP Singh, who's a strategic affairs and senior defence expert. Thank you very much for joining us, Major General Singh, on the programme. We've briefly looked at these bombs that were used along with the B-2 stealth jets. How much of an impact will have these bunker buster bombs had on these nuclear sites? We've seen conflicting reports from both sides, saying that the US saying that they've been obliterated. However, the Iranians have said that the US is overplaying the damage caused. The IAEA has said that there is no nuclear leakage. What can we expect from weapons like these being used on these strategic nuclear sites, Major General?
Well, it's a very good question and a very open question, which is inviting the attention of one and all. Now, America claiming that they have had complete success, and the president having made the statement, and Iran saying that they have not been so successful, or I think their very formal announcement I have not come across so far. But the IAEA statement, which you have mentioned, that there has been no radioactive fallout, indicates from this that these strikes have not been 100% successful. However, having said this much, it is the subsequent assessment, the damage assessment reports which would emerge. They will emerge from the satellite imagery and other such assistances from America, from Australia, from other parts, even India. Everyone will be doing this damage assessment study, and we'll get to know better. Further, I would like to take that, yes, this B-2 bombers and that the bunker busting bombs which have been used, it's a very devastating bomb which is there, which can penetrate as deep as almost 80 to 90 meters. Actually, it can, the literature says about 60 meters, but it was expected the tactics which are employed by the aircraft with B-2 bombers would have been that each plane can take 2 bombs at a time. And if they have to do another run, they have to get into that precision strike where the penetration has taken place. It has to go further in that place only to achieve getting deeper up to that 90 meter or maybe 100 meters or 80 meters, whatever it is, for getting a success. Perhaps now that damage assessment will tell us how it has happened. 12 bombs have been delivered in the 3 sites. Now 12 bombs means there have been at least 2 sorties per target. Here, America has been a little careful. There was a Russian cautionary message to them that do not adopt this course of action. Particularly, the Beersheba, where their Bureshah place where the Russian nuclear plant is there for civil purposes, it is being utilized, and that America wisely has stepped away from it. But this fallout, apart from the military implications, will also have geopolitical implications in the regional, first and foremost, and how it unfolds in the regional will dictate what's going to happen in the world. Now, militarily, what if we see what are the options emerging from this? Because this is a earthquake moment for the world. It's an earthquake moment for the world, what America has done, because they have gone beyond the Rubicon line. They have crossed another red line by doing so, because in the international law, it is violation. The action of the American administration in this is also against the Constitution, because it has not been endorsed by the US Congress. Now, so let us see how the fallout comes. There's a Republican majority in both the houses. How they will react next 24 hours would tell us on that. There are opposing views, but as per the survey, about 64% of the Americans didn't want America to enter the war, and a little higher percentage of the Republicans who did not want America entering the war. And rightly so, because the president who has come, Trump 2.0, has come on the thing that I will get ceasefire and other things done. So that has not happened. Just a second, please.
Of course.
Major
General, this is probably a good time to bring in the breaking news that we have. Israeli media is reporting that Iranian missiles have struck multiple locations across northern and central Israel. This includes Haifa, Nez Ziona, Rishon LeZion and Tel Aviv. The attack comes as Iranian media announced that Iran had launched 30 missiles at Israel. Major General, I'm wondering if you're still there, and I'm also wondering what does this say about Iran's military capabilities? Obviously, the country has been under barrage, specifically their missile sites, for the past 9 days. However, they're still launching trajectories towards the Israeli state. What can you say about how much of a fight Iran still have in them, given the damage that Israel has made on them in this time so far?
It is a given. It's a given that Israel is a superior military power at the moment, and Iranian military is the weaker one, because primarily the non-contact war which is taking place, the air capabilities, Iran is much lower. But in the missile capabilities, Iran has developed it to a good high degree, and that is what they are making use of it. They even got the hypersonic missiles, and they have penetrated the Israeli air defense systems to the extent that their interceptor ammunition is at premium for the Israelis at this stage of the war. That is, Iran has retaliated as early as they have done now, indicates that they have the ballistic missiles to sustain themselves in the foreseeable future. One estimate was that 2,000 ballistic missiles are there. Netanyahu is on record to have said that they're equivalent, or their ballistic missile assets are equivalent to 2 nuclear bombs. Now, when this war was on and the American threats were coming, it has also been reported that they had moved some of their missiles into safer places to be made available as they have done now. No doubt that they are without their air defense. The air supremacy, I would say, dominance exists now with America. It was there earlier with Israel. So Iran will give a fight. It's a nation with a lot of pride. It's a Persian civilization. They will stand up for that pride. Yes, the causes to the war which have taken place are debatable to the extent that Iran, having given the threat of wiping out Israel, has become the bone of contention and existential threat to Israel, which dictated Israel to take the actions which they have been taking. But Iran has also committed itself to be a nuclear power. And they are also signatories to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, for which the IAEA has reportedly said that they have been abiding by it. The latest IAEA report which was there, and is again a question of discussion, because the Tulsi Gabbard, the director of the National Intelligence in America, said that Iran has not trespassed any of those limits, whereas the president has overruled her assessment in the same administration. So this naturally becomes a debate. But the thing is definitely there that Israel has always fought for its existence because they're surrounded by a neighborhood where the stakes are very high for them. They got a nation after centuries, and so they want to exist on this earth, and they also deserve a right to do so. So Iran, now what steps could be taken? They have retaliated despite very fierce warnings from the president on his statement which has come up. So they have taken it forward. How America reacts now is a moot point. And there, you see, the options are even open with Iran. It is not only the military part of it.
Yes.
A weaker power has got the resort to asymmetric, hybrid, and proxy war. And that is going to remain open. US has got its threats in the Middle East with its bases. 8 countries it's got the military bases. They are targets which Iran can target with its short-range ballistic missile as well. So, and they have got hypersonic missiles. It worries. So this will call worries when I say regional impact. It worries the Arab nations who are there, where these military bases are there. Yeah, what will happen in that country if the war takes place in those countries? America, on the other hand, has to tighten up its capabilities and capacity in these bases. It also will be working as to what next step can they do. It could be the continuous air action which America has resorted to years back in Iraq, which they call the aerial bombardment and aerial saturation of the targets. If they do that, then it will be the world is then going to speak up. The regional power is going to speak up whether that is going to be fair to cause that much damage to Iran or not. So it's a very, very tinderbox situation right now, which has been created, and an element of surprise and deception which Israel did on Iran on 13 June. The president of US has also taken it forward when he gave a window of 2 weeks and also suggested for talks in Istanbul, where he said his vice president, Whitaker, I think is the gentleman of the US administration, to carry forward negotiations in Istanbul, where he said he also might come. Now, if that was there, perhaps Iran did not sense that the attacks will come as they came last night.
Yes, Major General, we've got some breaking news coming in. Iran is taking its case to the United Nations, demanding an emergency Security Council meeting after what it calls heinous attacks by the United States. In a formal letter obtained by the Associated Press, Iran's ambassador to the United Nations, Amir Sayed Iravani, called on the world body to respond to the US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Iravani accused the US of illegal use of force and urged the Security Council to take all necessary measures to hold Washington accountable under international law and the UN Charter. Okay. We're now joined by Major General. I want to come back to you. International law, the UN Charter, how effective is this? Is this just a publicity? Is this just for publicity, or is this something that could actually move forward?
The world knows it. How effective or ineffective is the United Nations and its charters? That the United States has taken the action, what it has done, it means little on the international law and also on the UN charters. So it is a rule-based order which is dictated by America, and that is what is going to take forward the subsequent unfolding of events. Yes, is Iran having sought the UN Security Council meeting? It's a good step. Perhaps it could open out a road, a pathway to restoring of dialogue, and talks. That could come about, and that perhaps in the better interest of the world and the region for peace will be a good step. So I don't rule that out. But however, this step to carry out strikes on a nation of the extent which has been done will be debated for long. And Iran, for its part, definitely it has to stand by its sovereignty, so it has to fight. It has to fight as Israel is fighting for its existence. So would now Iran. So this tussle would be on. The tussle now has gone beyond one nation. It has gone to America's participation. And of course, there's no doubt that the Western powers have given all the support to Israel in arms, materials, in all these years. So Iran is one country, if we analyze it, they have not gone to war. And this is the first time that America also has gone into war with Iran. But America, before it extends this thing and keeps it at non-contact warfare, if it's ever thinking of going with boots into Iran, I think the lessons of Iraq on Iran's west and lessons of Afghanistan on Iran's east should serve them good lessons of the military operations and geopolitical angle. So they'll be well advised, I would say, if we have to use this, I have to use this forum not to extend the war further and try to come to terms in the UN Security Council meeting, which should be taking place. Over to you, Tom.
I first of all want to get your initial reaction to the strikes that have taken place within last night, Middle Eastern time. The White House has said that these strikes changes the course of history. Does direct US action strengthen Israel's regional hand or widen the battlefield to Gaza and beyond?
I'm going to presume you're speaking to me, Tom.
Yes,
Look,
I am.
Sorry.
Yes.
The reality of this attack, an illegal attack on a sovereign nation to buttress an illegal entity. I'm going to disagree with the Major General. Israel is an illegal entity. The way it exists today, it shouldn't be allowed to exist. No country should be allowed to exist when it exhibits apartheid tendencies and genocidal intentions. This country, Israel, has bombed 5 nations now in the past 2 years. The United States now in its 3rd interaction war in the Middle East in 20 years. It's an abomination. It's an abomination. What we've seen in Gaza in 20 months is a nuclear armed state with all of the capabilities of the entire West hasn't been able to defeat the resistance of the Palestinians there. How they can imagine that they can defeat 90 million plus Iranians with 4,000 years of history, 4,000 years of culture, that might bring about regime change. One thing needs to be clear: Israel is not a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's not a member of the IAEA. It exists outside of all of the diplomatic norms that the rest of the world abides by. We know, as brown people, the Major General here as well, is that the hypocrisy of the West, of global rules-based order, of international law, of humanity, are predicated on the color of your skin. What we saw internationally with the condemnation of Russia as they invaded Ukraine, sanctions, military support, refugee escape pathways, etc., have all been absent to people of brown skin. This is an abomination, and sadly, no one's ever been able to bomb their way to peace. If there were movements within Iran against the regime, what they've done is in fact embolden the regime. How Iran reacts, whether to US military bases in Qatar, in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, but also how China might react. Remember that Iran is part of China's strategic fuel supply. How China might react, what Russia might do. What we've seen here is, a megalomaniac, a genocidal war criminal in Benjamin Netanyahu, who is indicted by the International Court of Justice and Crime for crimes against humanity, has, in a desperate play to stay in power, has extended this war beyond the collar countries of occupied Palestine, of Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, etc., to now Iran. It's shameful that the world's allowed this to happen like this, and I call upon our government in Australia to go beyond merely mouthed excuses and platitudes. It's time for us to sanction this apartheid state. It's time for us to cease having relations or actions with this genocidal rogue nation.
In order to provide some balance here, Nasser, Iran frequently vocally calls the United States the Great Satan, which is a label coined by the Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979, and refers to Israel as the Little Satan. They've widely expressed criticism of both nations, strong criticism. Nasser, does the Americans not have the right to be concerned if a country that so openly calls for their demise develops a nuclear weapon?
Tom, have you been paying attention to the rest of the world? The only country that has been destroying countries all over the world, whether it is Afghanistan, 20 years, and they went to defeat the Taliban and ended up with the Taliban being in power. The Balkanization of Iraq, of Libya, of Syria. The only countries with this sort of blood on their hand are America and Israel. Words, sir, words don't matter when you obliterate nations. When you are, remember, the United States is the only country to use a nuclear weapon, not once but twice. This is a country that have never apologized, never made good on what they did to Vietnam, what they did to Korea, they did uranium in Fallujah, in Iraq, what's happened throughout the Middle East in their pursuit for worldwide hegemony. The words of a regime, however inflammatory they might be, pale into insignificance to the horrors the West, the United States and its proxy, the apartheid genocidal state of Israel, have actually meted out.
Nassem, we have some breaking news coming in. Please stay with us. Iran's foreign ministry has urged international institutions not to remain silent, warning that failure to condemn blatant aggression exposes the world to unprecedented and pervasive danger. Tehran reaffirmed that the United States started a war against Iran during diplomatic talks and says it will resist with all its might against US military action. Nasser, can I get your thoughts on that? Obviously, we've seen mixed statements coming from around the globe in regards to this, mainly calls for de-escalation from foreign ministries around the world. However, we have the United Nations who are condemning the US strikes. What are your thoughts in the timing of this, and also calls by the Americans for diplomacy? Do you think that this will transpire, or do you think it's just going to lead to more violence in the region?
There's an inevitable increase in violence. What we need to understand that Israel exists the way it exists because of the impunity the West has conferred upon it. It can only exist as a military garrison state, and it can only exist that way by continuing to suppress the people who rightly claim that land, the Palestinians. Now, how that manifests itself as you extrapolate it beyond is what we've seen throughout the Middle East, the destruction of Syria, the destruction of Lebanon, of Libya, of Iraq, and now what's going to happen to Iran. Iran's not going to sit idly by and allow for this to happen. Should we go back to diplomacy? Absolutely, we must go back to diplomacy. We need to be speaking. Every child's life is precious. When we consider a brown child's life is as important as a white child's life, as in the Ukraine, then we might be able to get to a basis of equality and humanity and negotiation. But while Israel continues to pound Tehran from the air, I can't imagine that Tehran's going to stop. It's not going to stop. And how this escalates, what the United States does next. I mean, the Major General was talking about Tulsi Gabbard, and where the United States military analysts and their security services said that Iran isn't near weapons-grade plutonium, that we've got this shockingly racist genocidal regime in Israel that is manufacturing consent. Manufacturing consent. You know, Benjamin Netanyahu, for the best part of 3 decades, has said that Iran is 1 minute from a nuclear bomb. He's been wrong for 30 years, but he has been deliberately lying for 30 years. We are sleepwalking into World War III. God help us all. God help us all. I don't know what Iran's going to do and what America's reaction might be, but we are in unprecedented times. We are in unprecedented times, and I'm gravely worried for all of our humanity. Every child should be equally precious, regardless of their race, religion, color, where they were born, if they worship a God, and how they might worship a God. And this is sadly not where we are today.
Nasser Mashni, thank you very, very much for joining us on the programme and for your insight. We will continue to bring you all the updates in regard to this ongoing situation between Israel, Iran, and now the United States, with further news updates and also news updates from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.